Hi everybody. This is a real quick mini lesson on the Balkans, and this will be one of our first mini lessons for the semester. Remember that it's important that you review the material in these mini lessons. You are responsible for it. So let's get started. So this is a map of Europe, and the Balkans is in the region that has the red square, which would be right in here. So the Balkans include Herzegovina and Bosnia, Serbia, the Balkans, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Albania, and parts of Greece. But really, it doesn't extend all the way into Greece, but the Balkan Peninsula is right in here. Serbia. All right. So let's think about that little red square. Think about the geography of the region. How might that geography impact their history and development? We learned a little bit about Greece and in the last semester, but right now what I want you to know is that it's surrounded by water. It's edging into the Mediterranean Ocean. Serbia and Bosnia are up in the mountains. The rest are, it's still mountainous, but it's not the kind of mountains that you would expect. They're not, you won't see any forests or a lot of forests. What you'll see mostly is small shrubs. The mountains aren't exactly incredibly high, except near Serbia and when you get up into the Balkans. All right, so in between Europe and Asia is the Balkans, and it makes it a key area for trade. It's a mountainous region. You have the Pindus Mountains, the Dinaric Mountains, the Balkans. And the effects are that the populations, as they were at the times of Greece, are physically separated. And there's little cultural exchange between each of the different groups of people. And this leads to cultural groups or ethnicities that gather in one small area, speak perhaps a different language, have definitely different cultural influences, and it affects the way that they interact with each other. So a lot of times you'll have these ethnic groups that say, you know what, we're a Muslim group, we're going to separate from the Christian group. Serbia is Christian, and most of Bosnia and Herzegovina is Muslim, as an example. So the land in between. Uh, in the east, you have Christian, Roman, and Catholic peoples. Christianity is the number one religion, and they were part of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. In the west, they tend to be either Christian, Orthodox, Islam, or they are from the, and they were all both associated with the Ottoman Empire in the 1500s, 1400s, going back. Okay, so ethnicities. The Croat ethnicity, or Croatians, is a Southern Slav, which is related to the people who speak Russian. That is a Roman Catholic from the Adriatic coastal region. The Slovenians, or Slovenes, are a Southern Slav that is Roman Catholic from the west of the Dinaric Mountains. A Serb is a Southern Slav that is Orthodox Christianity, usually from the east of the Dinaric Mountains, and Orthodox Christianity is what is practiced in Greece. Bosnia, or a Bosniak, is a Southern Slav whose ancestors converted to Muslim or Islam, living in the Dinaric Mountains. And this region also includes several non-Slavic groups. Hungarians in the northern edge of Vojvodina, the Albanians in the area of Kosovo, who are the descendants of the Illyrians. So these are more closely related to the ancient Greek. Now, this is the part that I always would tell my students when I taught world history. This is the part where a sandwich led to a world war. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm going to get to that. In the early part of the 1900s, the Balkans became known as the powder keg of Europe. And this is Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, who came to visit to try to iron out some things with the on behalf of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. World War I was set off by the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian nationalist in Sarajevo, which is Serbia, which was under the control of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and they didn't want to be Austro-Hungarian, they were Serbian, and very intently. So what happened was this guy, this Serbian nationalist, he came with a group of about 4 or 5 people, and they were the gang that couldn't shoot right. They tried to blow him up in one day. They tried to blow him up, stab him, attack his wife, and none of it was successful until this one man had given up, and so he went to a sandwich shop to go get a sandwich, and it was on a one-way street that was barricaded on the far end. So he goes to this sandwich shop, and he gets a sandwich, and he's walking out of the sandwich shop, and who does he look face to face with? He looks face to face with Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and they are stuck. They have to back out of this little alley, and they can't back out in time, and so he Prisepic, I believe was his name. He reaches in, grabs his pistol that he just happened to have with him, and shoots the Archduke in front of his wife, and kills another man as well, one of the security guards. So that's how a sandwich led to the beginning of World War I, because once the Archduke was assassinated, that ended everything. That all bets were off, and you started to have people joining together on their chosen sides. The Ottoman and Austro-Hungarian empires are broken up. Yugoslavia becomes an equal confederation of Croats, Slovenes, and Serbs. Now, this is all after World War I is over and Germany loses. And the Austro-Hungarian Empire is pretty much in shambles. Problems begin in 1928 when a Croatian politician leading the fight for equal distribution of power is assassinated, and the Serbian king, the Alexander Kardodevic, takes control. He dismisses parliament and declares himself a dictator. So the Croats welcome the Nazis because they see it as an opportunity to gain back control in Yugoslavia. Thousands of Serbs, Roman gypsies, and Jews are murdered in Croatia. Yugoslavia is eventually liberated from the Nazis by Josip Broz, or otherwise known in contemporary times as Tito, who becomes the dictator of Yugoslavia. There wasn't anything happening in Yugoslavia that he didn't know about and approve. He becomes that dictator of Yugoslavia until 1980. That was Tito. So there become new divisions, new countries are made under Tito. You have Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia. So here's what was Yugoslavia with Belgrade up here, the Serbians. And then you have Kosovo down here to the south, and Macedonia to the south. Tito's Yugoslavia is broken into 6 separate and semi-autonomous states: Serbia, Croatia, Macedonia, Slovenia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Montenegro. All of these now are independent countries, but they were pretty much tightly controlled by Tito and by Russia. Yugoslavia becomes a socialist state with nationalization of main industries and some small businesses. People lived mostly peacefully during this time. What they didn't want is to be taken over by Russia, but Russia pretty much controlled the strings. After Tito's death, things fall apart. Slobodan Milosevic becomes the president by promising the Serbs, the majority of the people, that he would make great things happen for them. Sound familiar? By 1991, Slovenia and Croatia both declare their independence from Yugoslavia, and Bosnia does that in 1992. The Slovenes were quickly successful, but terrible wars would rage for several years in both Croatia and Bosnia, with the Yugoslavian army made up of primarily Serbs committing horrible atrocities and ethnic cleansing against the Muslims in these states on behalf of Christianity. Okay, so Milosevic had his troops focus on Sarajevo, where they massacred thousands of people, including 3,500 children, through the use of snipers. If you walked out your door, you died, period. This was the first time the term ethnic cleansing was used, as in Orthodox Serbs targeted Muslims in Bosnia. Little was done by the West, only a few sanctions, until a marketplace was bombed in 1994. And after this, United Nations peacekeepers were sent and allowed to retaliate against Serbian violence. Serbian soldiers responded by taking peacekeepers hostage and using them as human shields. And NATO responded with massive strikes against the Serbs until Slobodan Milosevic finally relented and gave in to peace talks. In 2000, Milosevic lost the election and was handed over to the United Nations for crimes against humanity, where he later died in his cell before his trial ended. Macedonia became independent in 1991. Montenegro became independent in 2006, and Kosovo, which is the Albanian Muslims region of Serbia, became independent in 2008. And that is the story of Bosnia-Herzegovina. All right, guys, have a good one, and we will see you all in your class connection sessions. Thanks.